got caught up in the... The fish are on, baby. Little Swimbait bass. Come on, baby. I need to tighten my drag up a little bit. Look at that fish. That's a beautiful fish. Let's hurry up and get him in. Look at this. Look at this, folks. Saguaro Lake bass. Swimbait bass. Look at that. Look at that. I gotta hurry. I gotta hurry. I'll tell you what, folks, when you get into fish like this, you have got to take advantage of it. Oh, he hit it and didn't get it. Let me turn around. I probably fouled up my swim bait. It's okay, man. Look at them. They're chasing shad all over the place. This is typical fall bass feeding right here. Typical. Oh, I'm in the wrong spot. Once again, you got to hit them right on top of the head. Oh, right here. Look, look, look. That was a big fish. Oh, I got him. Oh, I missed him. Oh, he came back for it and I missed him. Oh, we got to hurry. We got to hurry. They're in here just going after it. Oh, man, these are some big fish, folks. These are some big fish. Come on, right there. Oh no, did I miss it? Did I miss it? Oh, this is not good. Come on, baby. Oh, you guys were all over it. I've had 2 fish on. I'm throwing a paddle tail swim bait. It's a 5-inch. I wished I had 3 inches on now. If I would have had a 3-incher on right now, I'd probably be whacking them. They're moving shad all over the place. Let me see if I can catch one over here. Let me see what's going on. Man, they were all over the place. I had my opportunities. I might have to wait for them to bust up again, but this is typical fall fishing, man. You get here, Saguaro Lake, this is what we were looking for, waiting for them to get up and start busting like that. Oh man, that is fun. That is fun. You get in an area like that, they just keep, oh, right there. They're busting them up against that wall right there. Oh, I gotta hurry up, get up in there. Oh no, come on. Come on. Come on. Oh, he hit it, but he didn't get it. Ah, he got that one though. That's what I'm talking about, son. Oh, that's a monster bass. That's why you got to get in there when you get the opportunity and you see them busting like that. Man, look at the size of this fish, folks. We got a bunch more. We got to get in there. Look at that. It's a 3-pounder. I'll tell you what, there's nothing more fun than throwing a little swimmy bait when they're doing that. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You think every time's gonna be a fish. What I'm doing is I'm keeping it coming across the top of the water and making them chase it. Just barely under the water. I'm not slow reeling this thing whatsoever. Let's get it out here. Let's get it out here. Come on. Come on, do it again, baby. And what they're doing is they're just following them shad around and following them shad around. I gotta tell you, that wind, there's a front blowing through, and I knew with the front blowing through, we might luck out and get a few. And this is exactly what we're looking for right here. That's what you wait for, man. You can fish all day long, let me tell you. Oh my goodness, big ones, folks, big ones. Big ones, big ones, big ones. Oh, come on, come on. Oh, when they start busting like that, you gotta be in there on them. That wind ain't helping. That wind is not helping at all. We know they're in there. You know, I think it's real important when you're doing this kind of fishing to make sure that you're using the right size line. You don't want to be using anything real stretchy, you know, so you can get that big old hook in their face. But I'll tell you, the main thing is I like about a 14-pound test line when I'm throwing a big 5-inch little swim bait like this with a paddle tail. And then I use a 5/0 wide gap hook, and it acts like a keel, and it keeps that bait just kind of wiggling across there. And then I think the other thing is I like to use a medium heavy. It's like a spinnerbait rod for this type of fishing, so I can really set the hook good. And I'm using a fast retrieve ratio reel made by Johnny Morris, and it's a great reel. And the new Carbon Light, Johnny Morris Carbon Light rods, they have the carbon coil in them. And let me tell you something I love about this rod. Check this out. This rod is a real nice rod. It's light, you can throw it all day long. But if you take a quick look right here at the numbers, I can change the numbers. And what's real cool is when you get so many rods in your rod locker, you don't know what size line's on them after a while. So what I like to do is, you know, you can change this to 17, you can change it to 14, you can change it to 12, you know, whatever size line you're throwing, you can actually dial it in on the end of your rod, and then it'll remind you when you pick it out of the rod locker what size lines actually you're using on your reel. So that's kind of nice too when you have 10 rods in the rod locker, so wondering which one's got what on it. So anyways, that's the outfit that I'm using, and usually when they hit it, you can set the meat to them, and you got them. And what I like about throwing this particular bait here is the fact that I can actually just bring it across the top of the water. I'm kind of waking it. You can slow roll these too. I've caught them slow rolling them for sure. I've caught them with ball heads on them, things like that. You know, you can throw those Kitech baits. Those work good. Anything that looks like a shad, you know, they'll go after. So try some of those and you'll probably get bit a little more often. And there's a fish down there. I still got my spoon hooked up, you know, because I want to try to see if I can catch a spoon fish, but you can see the big fish on the bottom there. We kind of passed him up while we were throwing around, but always have a spoon handy when you're doing this kind of fishing, a topwater, a spinnerbait, because if they are just chasing them down the bank and you do want to follow them, you can chase them down a lot quicker with a spinnerbait or something like that. You can catch them and have a lot of fun. But the arsenal this time of year is usually topwater, spinnerbaits, the swim baits, the spoons, crankbaits work well, and they're just chasing shad. They're feeding up, man. It's fall. Typical fall pattern. You'll go down, you'll be worming, you'll be doing all kinds of stuff. You may not get bit here and there, and then all of a sudden the lake explodes with action. And when the lake explodes with action, boy, you better be ready, because I'll tell you what, it's a lot of fun, and you don't want to miss it. See that? Look at that, look at that, look at that. Got him! I got him! Look at him chasing those shad, and I got one. You just need something in there that will just get up in there and move fast. Spinnerbaits sometimes work well, but I'll tell you what, it's hard to beat something that skims across the top of the water. It really is. They're all over the place in here. You know, one of the things I love about this bait is you can cast it so well. Look, they're up there. Oh no. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. 5/0 knot right here. I gotta back off. I'm gonna spook the fish if I don't. I'm using a 5/0 wide gap hook, folks. 5/0. Wet your knot, always wet your knot. We're in the area. What happens is these fish are moving up and down the bank, up and down the bank, and this is where they're surfacing and grabbing them. So we found a nice spot. They keep going back and forth, back and forth. This is definitely the spot to catch them in. But it's important to find something that you have confidence in. But it's hard to beat a swim bait this time of year that looks like a shad. Everybody's going to these swim baits nowadays, and I'll tell you what, I'm a believer. These things work. If you have, ooh, I just got bit. If you have enough patience to stay in the spot you're in and try not to move around a whole lot when you're doing this, it's fun to chase them. But the thing is once you find an area like a wall like this where they're gonna keep coming by and busting them up against the wall, I like to kind of stay in the area a little bit. You don't want to lose this area to another fisherman or, you know, trying to move them down the bank. You know they're coming up here every so often, so they're out there in the middle now jumping. They're out there. We're gonna catch them. And if you look at this wall, how this wall it's just awesome. This rock wall right here, and see the little cut right there? That's where they'll ambush them. That's exactly the kind of cut they want to start pumping those shad in right there to gather them up and eat them. You could sit here if it slows down, maybe throw some spoons. Spoons are really good, things like that. But don't be afraid to just keep throwing your bait around, and they're gonna surface right back up, and you'll get another opportunity to catch another fish. And I'll tell you what, this is some fun fishing. You can take your topwaters, your Ricos, you know, anything like that will work good. Oh, they're moving them that way too. They're moving them right into that cut, right into that cut, right into that cut, right into that cut. Got him. That's a good fish. Good fish, see? And they're still moving them. Oh man, that is a good fish. I kind of backlashed my reel a little bit when I casted it out there, but we'll get this fish in. That's a good fish, folks. Oh my goodness. That's every bit of 3.5 pounds, 3-pounder right there. I'm telling you. Come on, buddy. Look at that fish. Fun fish right there. Beautiful fish. Oh my goodness. 3-pounder, look at that. They kind of quit busting so I can show the fish off a little bit, which is nice. You know, these are some nice fish. Saguaro Lake bass. I gotta get the backlash out of my reel. I threw up there and I had a little bit of a professional override. At that point, I didn't have time to get it out. And that tells you right there the essence of how fast you got to be in there and get in, you know. And I figured I'd get the backlash out once I got the fish in. As long as the reel cranks were good, it wasn't that bad. Just a little bit of an overrun there. They were chasing them down here though. Those are some nice fish chasing. Those are 3-pound plus fish chasing, 2.5, 3-pound. You might catch a fish of a lifetime doing this kind of fishing. And you notice I threw right back in there and there's no fish, but you saw them moving down the bank. They're just moving them down the bank, and then they'll come back and they'll make another run. And they'll just keep coming back and forth, back and forth. And I'll tell you something, the closer you get your bait to that wall, the better off you'll be when they're busting them shad up against that wall, because it looks like it came off the wall, like they pushed it up against the wall, and it came right back in the water. It gives a great opportunity for them to nail that bait. It's awesome. Oh, doggone it, I got bit in there too. Got him. Oh, he's a good one too, folks. Oh, I lost him. I didn't have him good. Ah. Why am I missing him? Missing them like that. Setting the hook, I'm getting overzealous. I need to feel them first. Hey folks, big tip of the week here. When you're throwing these kind of baits, you've got this hook that's actually buried in the plastic a little bit. Make sure that when you're rolling this thing across the water, when the fish explodes, that you feel the fish before you set the hook. It's so easy, and I do it all the time, to get overzealous and set that hook too soon, and you actually, before the fish gets a chance to turn with the bait, you actually pull the bait right out of its mouth and the hook never even comes through the plastic. So make sure that, without a doubt, that you feel the fish before you set the hook, and you'll catch a lot more fish. There's one other bait that works really well, and it's one of my favorites when they're chasing shad and throwing them up against the wall, and that's this crocodile spoon. And what I love about the crocodile spoon, and you have to use a swivel with it, it's a little bit different than your average strata spoon that you just jig up and down off the bottom. This particular bait is more of a flutter type spoon, and you can also reel it, and it has a great wobble to it. So as it comes through the water, it looks like a shad. And I like the chrome, just go with the chrome. And a lot of times, this bait's heavy enough where you can get a long cast. If you see them jumping out in the middle of the lake and busting shad and things like that, and all you do is you throw this out and you let it fall. And as it's falling, a lot of times they'll hit it. If they don't hit it on the fall, you just rip it up once and they're usually right there. They're coming up every once in a while. Right now they've kind of simmered down a little bit. We've got the cloud cover, we've got the cold front coming through. We got a lot of wind. We're kind of sheltered out of the wind right here a little bit, which is nice. But anytime you take a bait like this, you can just take it out and throw it and just let it fall. And a lot of times I like to throw this on a bait caster. I was in a hurry and threw it on my spoon rod that I jig vertically up and down with my 8-pound test, but this will still work. I mean, if a fish hits it, we can still feel him and catch him, and it flutters down. It's got an awesome fall. And what happens is this particular bait is, what makes this so much fun to throw is when they bust those shad, a lot of times those fish will turn around to see if they've left anything. Sometimes the bigger fish come up as the little fish eat, knock the shad, injure the shad, and this will look like that injured shad falling down. A lot of times the bigger fish will come up and just thump it. That's when they're really getting explosive on this, on the shad. Right now it's kind of here to there. It was really on for a little while, and it just kind of faded out just a little bit. You know, I've had a great time today. Hey, it was my birthday today. I got to go out and actually do some fishing today. Got to be with you, and I'll tell you what, we've had a great time on the water today. It's been a long day, it's been fun, but man, I'll tell you what, when the fishing's tough like that and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, they start blasting up, it can make for some fun fishing. The only thing I can tell you is run around the lakes, check them out, see where there's activity going on, stop and fish it, and you'll have a lot of fun. And don't forget, a lot of these fish will blast in the middle of the lakes, 200 foot of water. Stop and pop them, get them. You'll have a lot of fun. And I'll tell you what, don't overlook that little swim bait or spinner baits or topwater or crankbaits. You could catch them on a wide variety of stuff, but today this was the ticket for me. And I'll tell you what, I had a lot of fun. Next time on the show, I'll catch a big 10-pounder, but this time it didn't happen. I'll tell you, I tried hard. We caught some great fish here, and I'll tell you what, this lake is very healthy. Don't forget, if you want a guide trip with the Arizona Fishing Guides, Scooter knows this lake very well, and I'll tell you what, he can bring you out and catch you some nice fish, and he's on this lake quite often. Thanks for joining me on the show. We'll see you next week. I'm Johnny Johnson.